prop would like us to do. Good day. Welcome to this session here on Spire. This is a hands-on session for this particular product. We've done an overview of the product. We've done a first session looking at their various accounts receivable and general ledger features. And today we're most interested in understanding how Spire is a good example of the prop environment. And we'll explain what prop is here. We think that Spire is a great example in that area. We're going to spend most of our time in inventory and in sales. And we're going to discuss lot and serialized tracking along the way as well. We'll also look at some of the other things like price matrices and so forth. But the main thing here is to focus around the advanced features in Spire, which we believe are not in most entry-level systems. Now, I am Randy Johnston out of Hutchinson, Kansas. I've taught accounting software for some years. I've been on the top 25 thought leader list since 2011 and the top 100 list since 2004. I do write columns monthly on accounting technologies, and you can certainly contact me through my website. Now, beyond that, for today's podcast, you're able to listen for free. And this podcast, which is broadcast twice a week on Tuesdays and Fridays, tries to present the latest information on a variety of accounting technologies, hardware items, and so forth. It's really a place to get everything that you need to know. Our podcast tries to give you reviews, analysis, and training where we can on various topics. And that can be anything from accounting software to the latest gadgets to Excel and all of Microsoft Office. You can listen to us for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, SoundCloud, and other places. Or like today, you can watch us live and earn credit while watching. Do check out our website at cpetoday.com. Now, today's webinar is quite simple. If you follow along and respond to the questions as they appear, you'll get your credit for today's session. If you're listening through a podcast platform, just make sure you sign up and take the 5-question quiz. Your certificate will be emailed to you through our partner K2 Enterprises. You have access to these materials and you have the ability to ask questions. Again, if you want to take that 5-question quiz, use the link shown here, cpe.cx/SPH2. I'll get it out, and you can take that quiz. But if this is your very first time of listening, we invite you to qualify for credit for free by using the coupon code OneFreePodcast. Now, all of the logos, brands, and so forth are copyrighted of their respected owners. What we're talking about today is for education from Flat Icon, Unsplash, and others. Again, just a reminder, you'll be asked questions to confirm your engagement. There'll be a question approximately every 12 to 20 minutes, 4 during our time together today. You need to make sure you respond to at least 3 of those. And when the prompt comes up, select a response to confirm your attendance. The system will track your response. Choosing a response will confirm you're attending and that you're engaged with the event. We may or may not announce the attendance prompts, so please keep an eye out for them. I will be doing some review questions as we go. So your certificate will come via email, but you have to respond to 3 of the 4 questions in the process of doing that, and you'll get your certificate within 2 days. If you have any questions about this, respond by visiting CPE today if you have any questions or issues with your certificates themselves. Likewise, at the end of our time together, there'll be a prompt for a course evaluation. We'd like you to fill that out immediately after you listen. It should pop up in a browser window automatically. Very short thing to respond to, 1 to 3 minutes to complete. Your feedback's particularly important, and we'd sure like to have you complete that online evaluation. So if you have questions, please answer them. Let me know, and I'll answer them the best I can. We're happy to explain more than once or in another way, and also to gain knowledge from you as you share your experience, knowledge, or insight. If you're having technical issues, use the chat or Q&A functionality to get help. So all of that said then, let's turn our attention to Spire in the time that we'll be together today. Spire Systems to me is a pretty amazing prop solution. Now I'll talk more about what prop is here in just a minute, but Spire has several attributes that clearly position it above the common entry-level competitors. If you have a need for inventory, if you have a need for costing, if you have a need for more price matrices, if you have a need for serialized inventory, if you want to be able to run premise-based or cloud-based, there is a lot of functionality in Spire systems. In fact, I would go so far as to say there's extensive functionality at a reasonable cost in a single platform. Many of these prop solutions are clearly larger than entry-level systems. And in many cases, they're almost as powerful as the mid-market and upper market ERP solutions along the way. So, this particular product falls into prop. So it's more than time for us to just talk a little bit about than an entry-level solution. In many cases, they can't afford or do not need a full ERP solution now or maybe even into the future. Prop are kind of in the middle of the road in terms of their capabilities, clearly more than entry level with add-ons, probably not as much as the big ERP, but the key here is the lower price point. Way less expensive than a common ERP with more functionality. In current engagements that I'm working on, I have Spire in as a responsive competitor and mid-market products. And the mid-market solutions, while very affordable and far less expensive and much more capable probably than Spire, they're also anywhere from 3 to 5 times as expensive. And that's a little hard to justify for a lot of small businesses. So the lower price point with ample functionality really is attractive here. So through the years, I've used this pyramid model of the accounting software market. When I first designed this, I was trying to help my attendees separate the level of accounting software so they could pick one that was approximately sized to them. The pyramid contains a U.S. Census Bureau statistics on the number of companies in the U.S. market. And I discovered that the size of the company and revenue and the number of employees were a pretty good indicator of what size accounting system they should buy. Again, if you'd like to learn more about this selection style, you can listen to our first session on Spire, where I interviewed Katie Griffin, who is one of the directors of partner development at Spire, as she explained how she helps people select systems. Well, entry-level solutions out there typically can do general ledger accounts payable and accounts receivable, and then they're pressed to do much more of that. Most of the time, you have to acquire add-on solutions to be able to get a complete solution. By the time you have the base system plus the add-ons, it's likely you're going to spend about as much money as you do for this kind of solutions in the middle or prop. And typically the prop solutions are good for small, medium businesses up to maybe mid-sized medium, small businesses, as it turns out. So what's the right range of solution here? I don't know. It's probably 1 to 100 million in size, and 100 million sounds like a pretty good sized business, and it is. It does depend on the complexity. There are places where you should not use Spire, but there's other places, many places, where it actually makes great sense to be able to do so. So if you consider the options here, prop applications help us manage processes, resources, operations, or all of the above? And as you're thinking about that, you'll notice that the acronym does lead to what we're talking about here. We believe that most small businesses need to manage their processes. Those are often called workflows. We believe that they're trying to control both materials and labor, the resources. We believe that they're trying to optimize their operations to make them efficient. So it turns out that PROP, which, by the way, does include process, resource, and operations, and trying to make a plan for all those, I believe the correct answer is all of the above. So with that being the background, now it's really time to turn our attention towards the capabilities of PROP that are above entry-level accounting. Now, in this case, we're really worried about inventory. It should be easy to find things like adding new items to your inventory, or quickly find items that you have on hand and what's been sold. A little more complex approach is to adjust your price metrics and audit your item log. So to demonstrate some of these items, I'm going to actually break out of the PowerPoint presentation for a minute, and I'm going to use this particular tool. Now, as it turns out, I'm going to leave my accounting software world application in the background, and I'm going to pop into Spire itself. Now, one of the things that Spire does is it has alerts, and you can see I'm getting an alert that we need to be running this application for you today. But there are also other alerts from in the past, and we can actually go into any of these alerts and see the specific transaction, even down to the source level, so we can see the transactions themselves. Now, these alerts are very, very helpful. We can use them for all sorts of purposes throughout the system, and I will show you more on that as we progress. But in this particular case, I'd like to spend a little bit of time looking at the inventory module. Now, in our prior session, we showed that you can navigate Spire by simply choosing the modules off of the left-hand menu. So if you want to look at vendors, or if you want to look at accounts receivable information, you can look at your customer list, your vendor list, or your general ledger list. That's straightforward. But today, we're going to spend the majority of our time around the inventory point of sale, price matrix type of issues. So I'd like to first get into the inventory items themselves. Now, with the inventory, it really gives us a place to easily add new items to your inventory. Adding an inventory item is very straightforward. But in this application, you can see that it's kind of a grid list view, and we can see any movement of inventory from one place to another. And then we can also do our reporting on the inventory items themselves. Now, in just a moment, we'll talk about why the locations are important. And you'll notice the location here is listed as the raw materials warehouse. But I'd like for you to start thinking about locations as being various locations in your business, multiple warehouses you might have, even places like a truck could certainly come into play here. So if we look at our inventory items themselves, all I did was double click on this to drill down into the inventory item of rubber hose, a green rubber hose in this particular case. And you can see that we've coded the sales, revenue, cost of goods, and inventory for this particular inventory item. So the natural posting will occur by those categories for this item. You can see that the product code itself is in parts. We do have the ability to have alternate product codes. We can allow back orders or returns on this, and we can make this available on the web as well. You'll notice this particular item is non-serialized, and this would be where we do serial or lot numbers on these particular items. Now, some of the physical dimensions of the products are listed next. how big the packing size is, what its weight is, what location it comes from, a country of origin, and so forth. And then for pricing, we also have pricing, in this case per metric ton, I believe, the average cost and the current cost, and then who our primary vendor is and any POs that we have out for this vendor. Now, this basic setup leads us into some of the other pricing and unit of measure. You can see that it's at this level that we can apply sales tax. I'm configured for Canada, so I actually have tax rebates set up for various provinces across Canada. If there's images available, we can add the images in at this point. We also can use UPC codes inside here. Additionally, any movement of the parts where we transfer it from one place to another can be tracked in here. And also pricing, we'll look more at that separately in just a minute. We also have separate negotiated vendor pricing that's here and any purchase orders that we make, as well as if we're going to use these items in production. A little later in our time together, we'll talk about how kits are done and how you could get, let's say, raw hose and put couplings on it to produce finished goods along the way. Any sales, any other statistics, and then special user-defined fields. So notice that we've got a couple of fields identifying gluten-free and kosher and the storage temperature in here. And we'll look at how to add some user-defined fields. Then we've got the receipts. And since there's no serial numbers, that tab is grayed out. Then we have communications, the accessories, and I'm going to keep going over here because we have bill of materials. This is a single raw item, and then any integrations that we have. So that is the basic navigation of the inventory section of this particular product. Now, running in background, I have Spire running in its browser-based version. And I want to take a moment here to just show you that the browser instance of this particular product has very similar capabilities. You'll notice I just double-clicked on this. It is laid out so it will run in a browser, on a computer, on a tablet, in a phone more readily, but it has all of the same components. So a few things will already seem familiar to you. For example, the ability to have back orders, returns, and upload those things to the web. And of course, the general ledger accounts and the pack size and many of those items that we look through. And it basically is available in this scroll format. So Spire's ability to run from anywhere, including inside a truck, in multiple locations and so forth, is enabled by this browser interface along the way. For our purposes, though, I'm going to continue to operate dominantly out of the thick client version, the premise-based version, as we're looking at some of these inventory items. Now, if we want to go from one inventory item to the next, the navigation buttons here at the top allow us to do that. And we can also relatively quickly go in and look at any individual item, or we can actually get a report on this, including things like components and item allocations and so forth. And we can just do a quick preview about what's available in these particular parts or items. All right. Well, let's turn our attention then to a couple of other features which are true throughout the Spire product. And to do that, I'm going back up to the main inventory level. There's a search capability in here. And if we are looking for different items, and I'm going to do a couple of 3 searches here. The first one I'm going to do is I'm just going to look for hose. You know, we had hose in here. And as I was typing the word hose, you'll notice that it was matching on all of the hoses that we had within our environment. Let's just try a slightly different. Just going to search for water, and you'll notice we have multiple different types of coconut water, looks like, on hand. So it turns out that you can search on about any word or any item throughout the system and find those type of items. So I'm just going to pick off another word more or less at random here, dark. And you'll notice I've got dark chocolate as a description leading on the very last item, but dark is in the middle of the description on 3 different products that are in our inventory. So the search capability allows us to quickly find which items are on hand, what's been sold, and so forth. And you can see from this particular search that we do have a back order on the 3rd item here. We have 388 on hand, 387 look available, 1 has been committed, and there's 100 back ordered on this with 300 on order right now. So if we, again, want to go to that particular line item, we can go down and see the details behind that, including any orders that we have out there and any sales that are in process. So we have both of these sides of the equation available to us. Well, inventory items themselves, I think that's maybe enough for just a moment, because there's some other things that we need to see. And the next one that I believe that will be helpful to us is the price matrix piece. Now, various parts here have various pricing based on several different categories. So in the price matrix itself, let's just take a look at, perhaps this dumbbell piece, and we'll open that up as our matrix for just a moment. And, as we're going through this, you'll notice ours are all pretty simple that I'm displaying here. Minimum quantity, single price quote available to us. Let's see if we can find one that's just a little more complex up here. So let's take a look this way. And in fact, maybe the easiest way to do this is to come down to this Spire bell. And what I want to do is just add an additional price. Now, in this case, you can see minimum quantity, I'm going to get a $39 retail. But if I have an order of 5, maybe I'll set my price at $37, and you can see the resultant margin. And if we add another level, maybe on price quantity 10, we put it at $36, and we're maintaining a 24 margin. And if we go one more time to 50, maybe we give a price break of $35 at 22 points. And maybe then last but not least, we'll do 100, at which we sell for $34.50 and maintain a 21 margin. So the price matrix here on the item itself is fairly straightforward. Notice that we can also set the price matrices to occur in a particular time frame. So let's just say that we want to set this up for a promotion in the next January. We know that basically what happens is after the first of the year, people want to be do a little more exercise. So reality is the people who are buying from us are probably going to be looking to buy in December. So let's just back that down just a little bit. And for the month of December, we're probably going to use the date range of December 1st. And I think we'll go ahead and go out to December 23rd. Maybe that's even a little too long. Maybe we'll just go to the 21st. And you can see here that we've now set a particular price methodology up for a range of time. So we get the ability to not only give quantity breaks, but also to make it effective for a period of time. So I'm going to go ahead and just save that, and I'll remember that that's one that we can come back and look at a little bit later. And that happens to be the Inspire Dumbbell 20. Now, we can also audit the items that we're using throughout inventory, and we can track where inventory is, even if it's in another warehouse or on a truck. And that basically is done by our location. So in this particular case, what I'd like to do is maybe filter, and let's do filter this one on a location. And the first location is going to be by warehouse. And I don't really care whether we pick raw or Toronto or another location. I think what we'll do is we'll do it in Spire Toronto. And let's just say that we want to make sure that it is products that we actually have on hand. So we're going to add an additional filter here for on hand, and we want it to be greater than 0. And I don't think I'll get any more fancy than that, but I would like to save this particular filter. So you'll notice that I can save the filter, and I'm going to call it Toronto on hand, is what I like to do. So let's save that. And now when we pick our filters, you'll notice that the filters, hold on, we're going to make available on a company-wide level. And we could show it over here in the module list. I'm not going to do that. And we could save the column state. I'm not going to do that either, I believe. But now at this point, notice we have other filters that are set, including accessories that are in stock or items that need reordering. And now we've got the new Toronto on hand filter. So it gives us a chance to track inventory wherever it's at. And if we just go back now for a moment, and let me clear that filter. And apply now a very simple search. And I'm going to go back looking for my dumbbell 20 again. Notice that in this case, I'm searching for that. I don't have very many dumbbell 20s. Let's just make it a more generic dumbbell search so we can see all of those. And at that point, we could add in additional filters by warehouse. And again, I'm just going to do dumbbells now on my Toronto warehouse. Or if I come back to that is in Toronto on hand, I basically am in my Toronto on hand warehouse with everything where there is stock. All right. So, in this particular case, excuse me, I am going to go back now to just a straight inventory view. And I do have dumbbell in here, but I'm going to add 20. And I'm going to go to this particular product, and I'm going to add a note. Now, the notes themselves allow us to notify or alert on various conditions. So what I'm going to do is add a note here, and this subject is, special later in the year. And note, we are going to run promo pricing in December. And I could actually, set the alert time period and, other items in here. I don't think we'll do anything more than just save this particular alert. And now when we are looking at the dumbbell 20, you can see that the tab of communication is actually highlighted in red. But I'm going to come back up to this level and simply search on dumbbells again. And I want my communication column. So if we add the column or reorder the columns here, let's just see if we can add a particular column. And I want to just get to this item. And when we do, again, you'll notice that the communications are there. If we step over into the communications section, you'll notice that the special later in the year is alerted here as well. And there's more that we can do in terms of filtering it, customizing it, and so forth. So we can add notes to documents that can be associated at the item level. We can also email transfer orders within the system, and we can, document register records here and view the general journal related to these particular transactions as well. Well, at this point, you're getting a sense that the inventory capability in here is, fairly good, but we need to maybe spend a little bit of time over in production. And in this particular case, I'd like to actually build a kit, if you will. And so this might be a little bit more of a lengthy process. So stay with me here, because all I'm going to do is come into the productions area and I'm going to build a new production order. And it automatically numbers the build, and we can tie it to a sales order. But in this case, there's not really any sales order. I'm just doing a build to stock. And we're going to pick up the inventory items that we want to include. Order date for today should be fine. So let's just see if we can open the inventory related to this and actually build out our stock. And, in this case, I want to just build it to stock here, but I think we'll build for this particular vendor. And now we'll start adding some kitting. Now, as it turns out, the search capabilities here still exist. So let's go after our dumbbells. Hopefully we'll be able to find those dumbbells. And they happen to be in the Toronto warehouse. So we're going to change this over to Toronto, since I think that's where we're at. Actually, we're going to pick them all. So let's just see if dumbbells here. Will come in for us. And sorry about being a little quiet on you there. When things like this happen, sometimes I have to concentrate on being able to see that. So notice this is the kit for CPE today. And let's make it a little broader description. And we'll just call this dumbbell kit. And we'll give it a part number. and save that. Gotcha. So let's pick to go with our dumbbell. We're going to pick some additional bars as well. So we're going to pick the main mix bar and include that. And it looks like to get all those made, we've actually got the kitting capability in there. And we're also going to open the inventory and just see if in fact we've got that. It looks like we do. And we're going to save that particular production order. And then we're going to attempt to do a build. And let me increase my quantity here. So I want to put this out at about 9, I suppose. Actually, for our purposes, let's do 10. And then let's go ahead and do the build on this. And we've got a production history order now on that. So if we go do a preview on that, you'll notice that it basically shows the components used on that particular production order, what we have to have, what's the extended quantity, and how that's built out. So the build pieces basically allow us to have kitting within the manufacturing process. Now, along the way here, this assembly and capability of looking at the actual versus planned and any of the appropriate information is included in the inventory build item itself at this point. All right. I think we need to turn our attention back over to our next question. And this question is asked, which of these inventory features are in Spire? That we can find items in multiple ways, that we can price a matrix by part, we can add notes for any item, or all of the above. So as you're considering this, notice I tried to show you maybe 6 or 8 or 10 capabilities inside the platform itself, but clearly we could find items in multiple ways. I think I searched on dark and dumbbell and some other items with you. I did do the special pricing matrix by part number on the dumbbell 20. That we did add notes on that particular item, and you can add those throughout the system. So I believe all 3 of these particular items are there. So the correct answer would in fact be all of the above. Well, time is moving on us. We only have a few minutes left together, but there's a couple of 3 other areas that I'd like to make you aware of the capabilities inside Spire. One of the differences between entry-level accounting software and the prop version or ERP versions is the ability to do project tracking. Now, we'll look at that first, but project tracking allows us to create both internal and external projects. We can set the project period. We can actually create a project budget. We can look at income and expense for the last 3 months, and that is the default in this particular case. But we can also set an income and expense report for any period, and we can show the transactions or view the transactions from a drop-down menu. So think about items that you do inside the business on a recurring basis, either for customers or internal. Next, we have the ability to track time. Now, oftentimes organizations keep a separate time tracking module, and time tracking occurs throughout Spire. Here we can add service hours by employee, by company, by project and class. We can use a single entry or a multiple entry method. We can mark hours as billable or not billable. And then we can look at the audit log and document register that the records show from the shop drop-down menu. Well, so we got both project and time tracking. And as we use the Spire system for a sales engine, we can also do sales quotes. And we can create a quote from scratch or copy an existing quote. And we can add external and internal memos. So we can have some that we show to the customer and some that we use just internally. We can also add sales tax. And of course, we can email those quotes. And when the customer places the order from us, we can generate the order, do a sales invoice, originate shipment, accept any prepayments, and we can do all the purchase orders in a single place. And then we can track if the order has been shipped from the sales orders page. We can also create templates for these recurring orders. Next, we can also do shipments. And here we can easily create new shipments. We can view transactions in the general journal, in the inventory journal, in the audit log, and in the document register records. And you can configure how you want to see these things. So there's 4 or 5 additional items that I think are worth trying to see from a Spire perspective. So let's take a little bit of a time and look at a few of these items. And the first one I'm going to do is over to sales. A lot of the items that we do are sales driven. You can see here that we've got a quote for A1 park equipment. It looks like we also have a work order for A1 park equipment. But let's just take a look first at this quote. Now you'll notice that there are notes for the order, and the communication tab tells us what's going on with that. And if we take a look in here, it's a quote for John, and it's for July 14th and so forth. So we have that note or communication piece along the way. Let's see, in terms of order, let's take a look at just creating a sales order. And in this particular case, I'm going to go out and pick that same customer A1 park equipment, and no PO number. You'll notice that they ship via FedEx, and this system allows you to configure various fields for alerting. Much configuration is on there. You'll notice that sales order is showing us that we have both quotes and work orders in process here. Well, let's take a look. Where do we want to ship this? Well, we can use one of their ship to addresses. We're going to ship this one to Vancouver. And how are we going to ship this? Well, you'll notice that they have a FedEx account number, and they want that via FedEx. So we'll choose FedEx for them. And let's see, the order date, that looks like it's good. When they wanted these invoiced before the end of the month, so we'll put that in there. And let's make that today's date. All right, and let's see here. So what are we going to sell here? Well, we've played with the dumbbells today, so let's just see if we can get that dumbbell kit. And it looks like, in fact, there is the dumbbell kit. And it says, hey, we really don't have a sufficient order or back order. If a sufficient quantity, these are going to go back order. We're okay with that. Let's just see if we've got anything else that we can order here. Let's go ahead and do this dark chocolate, and let's just see if we can get 10 of those out to them. And there's the shipping quantity along the way. It does show us the lot numbers in here. Again, it's food product. That makes perfect sense. And notice that we can actually type in the serial numbers or lot numbers, and we can pick those up from barcode scans as well. So we basically have the sales order, and I believe that should be enough for us to get in there so we can see the bill to, the ship to, and all of the other items. If we've got sales tax, you can see what those are. And I think at this point, let's just add this and go to the next sales order, and you could continue to add additional sales order. So I've got a new sales order entered here for A1 park equipment. You can see it up at the top, and also how it affected some of the back order pieces. So we basically can generate that order and invoice it and ship it and so forth, all from that particular interface. Now, in terms of quotes, very similar process, by the way, is used inside this system. Let me just drop that down, because notice I can do a sales order, a booking order, a standing order, a quote, an RMA, or a work order. I'm this time going to do a quote. And again, you can see the interface, very, very similar. We're going to pick that same customer of A1 park equipment, and we're going to pick a few more dark chocolate bars here. Let's do these this time. And you'll notice it's warning us that the margins are below our standard. We made a deal here, though, because maybe we've got some bars that are, near the end of their life. So we're trying to move those out along the way. And we save that quote. And, it says, hey, these are below the required margin. Are you going to approve that? Yeah. Or we could actually go back and review it. But yeah, I want to approve that. So I'm at least aware that I'm selling below what would be our acceptable margins along the way. So the quotes can be copied, can be created from scratch, or you can copy from existing quotes. So if I go back to our view where we had a quote, and we have, this particular quote out there. If we want to just make a copy of it, we can simply do a copy at this level, and it'll be exactly like the prior order. So that's one of those options that you have available inside this system. Now, in terms of other elements, and in this particular case, let's just assume for a minute that we're going to deal with projects or time tracking and so forth. Each one of these tasks can be set up as a project. Now, the projects themselves can be done in the payroll system. They can be done inside of sales orders, production orders, and other places throughout the whole system. So it gives us a chance to locate all of those particular items. Now, I guess what I would like to do, because I know our time is running short, I'm going to step back over to the browser-based system of Spire for a moment. Now, one of the things that you should recognize is Spire will host this platform in their own data centers, or you can run them in your own location. Beyond that, you can connect to Spire with the thick client, which is what I've been showing you most of the time, or you can use the browser client to connect to the system. Now, the performance on this is, amazingly quick in my mind. If we take a look at the orders that are out here, you'll notice that the A1 Park system quotes that I just added are here. In fact, you can see this second one is this open item. And even in the browser, it's all real time. So you can have people working in the field from their tablets, from their mobile phones and so forth. And everybody's looking at the same data along the way. So it's real-time updating, browser enabled. And I understand from the Spire management team that they continue to add features to the browser client that makes sense for people that need to be mobile. The browser interface is not exactly the same as the desktop interface, as you've already seen, I believe, on that. But the key features that they believe are needed in the field, they basically make available through the browser interface. So many of the other elements that we look at are available here. This admin piece I have exposed, it's basically my instance of this particular item or this particular system. But the key things that you need are available on the browser interface. All right. Well, I think if I'm watching my time correctly, it is probably time for us to step over and maybe ask another question. So let's just do that item. Why is lot and serialized tracking important? It keeps customers safe. It's necessary to perform recalls of products. There's the need for compliance or government regulations or all of the above. And so, in terms of recalls on food products, usually that is done with lots. In terms of manufactured goods, that's often done with cereals. And sometimes you can have a crossover of the two. But the idea is if you've got a product that's got a fault in it, you need to be able to issue a recall to keep customers safe. And obviously then that recall is the second bullet. And in certain regulated industries, particularly FDA, FAA, those are required. So if you have customers or you provide products in those sectors, that's part of the government regulation. So I think the actual best answer here is all of the above. Well, you can imagine that there is so much more that could be shown, but over the 3 sessions that we've done for Spire, we wanted you to understand how to select the Spire system to get a pretty good view in part 1 of the general ledger ARAP. In this session, I was trying to get a little bit more into the inventory and sales pieces. Wanted to make sure that you understood that the capabilities in here were commonly superior to anything that you could get in entry-level systems. Plus, the pricing is way more affordable. Now, I do have the pricing available, but the Spire folks have said that they would be happy to see if, in fact, their capabilities would fit your needs and then approximately what the price would look like. So I wanted to show you how prop capabilities here, the process and resource and operation planning capabilities were in here, the inventory and sales, and I think we've got that accomplished. So if you are interested in earning credits for today's webinar and you're listening to this from a podcast platform, you can visit cpe.cx/SPH2 and take a short 5-question quiz. You're welcome to the materials. And, again, as soon as you finish that quiz question up, then you'll get your certificate within a couple of days. If you've been listening live, you should receive your certificate in the next 2 days or so. If this is your first podcast, use the coupon code ONEFREEPODCAST to get credit for today's webinar. Make sure you connect with us on social media. We're out on YouTube, on Twitter, and Facebook and Instagram, or you can listen to us on your favorite podcast source, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcast, or on SoundCloud. Well, we hope you've been able to pick up an idea or two today in terms of the Spire product. And, as it turns out, I hope you'll find that other content for CPE today is helpful to you. Remember, we're trying to maintain podcasts on Tuesdays and Fridays at 11 a.m. Pacific time, and you're welcome to join on any of these and look at our website at